A convoy of leftists just flew to Cuba to help oppress Cubans by probably handing thousands of dollars over to the corrupt communist regime while they stayed at a luxury hotel. The stupidity is one for the books. Cubans desperately need food and electricity right now, but don't worry, these activists are doing arts and crafts to raise awareness. The dictatorship is shaking in its boots, I can imagine. Let's lock in.
I am helping to leave a gift and vision of humanidad. This is the mural for humanity, and it's going to have little boats with notes in it of love, and it will, the words will go across all the way to the bird on the other side. There'll be fishes and sea life here, and it's from a poem.
Some comments under that video: I am Cuban and I find this disrespectful. Oh, that's gonna feed so many people. And I'm filming myself so that I can receive the glory from the fruits of my labor. Speaking of the little boats that they're painting or whatever, over 160,000 people fled Cuba on boats and rafts since Cuba became communist. You'd think these people would have run that through a sensitivity check first. This delegation is part of Code Pink, a feminist anti-war organization known for their theatrical activism. The convoy was joined by Isra Hirsi, the daughter of Representative Ilhan Omar, as well as left-wing Twitch streamer Hassan Piker, a friend of socialist mayor Zohran Mamdani, who I remember in 2019 said America deserved 9/11. Some members of this group stayed at a very glamorous 5-star hotel there. Of course, they're getting a lot of backlash for this because bad optics, but Piker defended it on social media and said, well, US law requires that they stay in luxurious accommodations for safety reasons.
So we're on the plane now getting ready to go to Havana, Cuba. We have this entire charter flight full of people and, as important, full of medicines. And we're so excited to be with the Cuban people and show our support, show our solidarity, and to say that this cruel, inhumane, barbaric policy of the Trump administration has to go.
So she's gonna support the Cuban people, 90% of whom live in extreme poverty, from first class. That looks like a really spacious seat. I think a ticket like that goes for several $100s, if not over $1,000. And the comments under this video rightfully called her out. As a Cuban, stop. As a Cuban, I am sick to my stomach. How dare you? Here's Hassan Piker relaying to his streaming audience his amazing experience in Cuba.
It's incredible. It's truly one of my favorite places officially. I totally understand why Will was saying that.
Could it be that the regime is presenting you with a hyper-curated version of Cuban existence, strategically hiding the worst suffering of its people from you, an American tourist, with whom they probably want you to lobby against the Trump administration? That's put a lot of pressure on them. Cuba's tourism sector operates within specially managed zones that physically separate tourists from the severe economic hardships and shortages and infrastructure decay on purpose.
You guys, I've heard people say that Cuba isn't a third world country. It's a fifth world country. That's what Cubans themselves have told me.
Drew Pavlou tweeted, Hassan Piker's $600 shirt is worth more than the entire annual income of a senior Cuban doctor. A highly qualified Cuban doctor with over 20 years of experience, scientific publications, and teaching experience might earn around 7,500 Cuban pesos. That converts to $20 US a month. And the glasses and the ring that Hassan Piker is gallivanting around Cuba in are allegedly the designer Cartier, which ranges in the thousands. Piker's raising awareness, that's for sure, but not in the way he hoped. Anyone seeing this has to conclude that American leftists are complete hypocrites, bashing capitalism all day long in public while enjoying it immensely in private, and even being so gauche as to parade the spoils and the goods that their salaries can afford in communist places like Cuba. And again, you're gonna speak on behalf of Cubans and say that they're being punished by the Trump administration when they'd probably tell you in a second that they would rather live under that administration than their own socialist government right now, immediately. Their government has ruined them. But this whole Code Pink stunt just screams white savior complex. Privileged Americans go to a third world country and they take actions that either insult the local population or actually cause harm to them while they're telling themselves that they're virtuous. Someone tweeted how American communists hope to be treated once they arrive in Cuba. Yeah, like what starving Cubans ask them to paint a picture on a wall and get a bunch of photo ops and content for TikTok. We have an epidemic of Americans who have nothing going on in their lives and they're using social causes to validate and flatter themselves. And if all of that posturing wasn't tone deaf enough, they brought hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of material aid that, let's be honest, has almost zero shot of getting to the destitute Cuban citizens. From Code Pink's own website, Code Pink's Nuestra America convoy delegation departed Miami today for Cuba to deliver 6,300 pounds of urgently needed medicines and medical supplies, including neonatal equipment, analgesics, catheters, and other critical hospital materials. The supplies, valued at $433,000, were collected by global health partners. For decades, the U.S. blockade has created severe supply shortages in the Cuban health system, and the Trump administration's total blockade on all fuel to the island has only exacerbated the situation. Yeah, you guys are really doing a lot of wishful thinking here if you think all that is gonna go to the right destination.
Jim Carlos came to protest the trip because he's worried the supplies won't make it to those in need.
The aid that they're going to give is going to go right to the regime, and they're not going to give it to the people that are suffering.
We asked Benjamin if she's concerned that the Cuban government will take the supplies once it lands in Havana.
The hospitals are run by the Cuban government, and so it's important to keep those hospitals functioning.
And wow, that elderly woman again, she just admitted that the Cuban government is gonna get these resources. Why wouldn't the elites just pocket some of the cash? Humanitarian aid that is delivered to tyrannical regimes historically is hoarded by those in power and distributed to their cronies or leveraged for control. This has happened pretty much since always. It's naive to say otherwise. Like for instance, the hospitals, the Cuban medical system that elderly woman claims to be supporting has a history of abuse of funds. Since 1963, Cuba has been operating a medical mission scheme. What they do is they send healthcare professionals, primarily doctors, to various countries to provide medical care while the Cuban government keeps most of the revenue. And of course, this only enriches the Cuban regime while the Cuban people are deprived of essential medical care. Not only that, but public hospitals suffer from failing infrastructure, including broken elevators, water leaks, and frequent power blackouts that have reportedly led to patient deaths. Due to severe shortages, it's common practice for patients to bring gifts, aka bribes, to doctors to ensure they receive priority or better quality service. And yeah, healthcare is technically free, but essential supplies like antibiotics, painkillers, and gauze frequently out of stock. So people gotta go through the black market, naturally. As of mid-2023, approximately 116 basic medicines were reported as scarce or unavailable in state pharmacies in Cuba. By early 2026, the crisis deepened to the point where 96,000 Cubans were reportedly waiting for surgeries due to lack of supplies and energy. Yet Code Pink wants to blame Secretary Scott Bessent.
Scott Bessent, you are responsible for levying economic warfare against the people of Cuba. People know of Nome as a murderer, of Secretary Hegseth as a murderer, but you are slowly strangling, causing a humanitarian catastrophe in Cuba that cuts off people from food, from water. It causes disruptive blackouts that leaves hospitals not functioning. You are responsible for the deaths of children.
This person on X wrote, "My family lives this nightmare every day in Cuba. No lights, no medicine, constant fear. Code Pink's little delegation is in solidarity, and it's a slap in the face to the Cuban people. The regime takes the aid, the people get nothing, and these activists get their Instagram posts." Disgusting. I mean, yeah, like, why don't they interview more Cuban people? That's my question. Or the descendants of those living in the United States, watching their families go through this crisis. they know the real story, they know the truth, which is that the bad guys here, not the Trump administration, it's the communists. She goes on in her tweet, those people cry and scream about oppression and they never once felt it in their entire privileged lives because they benefited from a capitalist society. You know, the ones that Cubans have died to try to get to.